The animation opens up at night when a little bird named Manu wakes up from his cracked shell. His egg was stolen by rats who rampaged his parents' nest, thereby rendering him homeless. Now he is hatched, he happily looks around but sees a wild rat who growls at him, so he passes out. Manu regains consciousness the next night and sees two seagull couples asleep. He goes towards them and the female seagull notices him. The female seagull named Eve then shields him in her wings as she tries not to wake her husband up. The next morning, her husband notices the little bird and is indifferent because Manu isn't a seagull but a swift, but she convinced him that they should keep Manu. Eve and her husband have no child yet, so they groom Manu and take him as their son, feeding him and training him as a seagull. One day, Manu's mom lays an egg and they are all excited at the idea of having a new child. One day, while Manu played with the egg, it hatches and a young seagull comes out from the shell. Other seagulls gather around the newly hatched egg, while some head over to call the baby's mother. Eve and her husband soon arrive and see their baby boy, whom they name Luke. They instruct Manu to take good care of his brother. As Luke grows, he and Manu become inseparable as they share a brotherly bond. Across the water is a town that Luke and Manu's father had warned them not to enter. On a faithful day inside the town, a fowl named Percy is locked in a cage and carted on a truck inside the market. Percy takes a complete look at the market from his cage. He sees birds like him who have been butchered and about to be prepared as food. These sights make him terrified as he sits inside the cage. Suddenly, the truck which conveys Percy hits an obstacle, making his cage fall and releasing him. So, he runs as fast as possible across foodstuff and people's shops as he tries to escape. Percy is tossed to the ground, and as he lies there, he sees some birds flying in the sky, so he gets up and runs in their direction. He follows the direction in which the birds fly, and he enters a bush but still follows them. Later on, Percy arrives at a cemetery. He walks around it as he takes in the view. Soon, it starts raining, and he heads over to a statue to shelter him. The next day, Manu, Luke, and the other young seagulls all commence their flying classes with their father as the tutor. Their first lesson is learning how to fly from the top of a cliff. The seagulls ace these lessons, but Manu experiences difficulty flying and falls into the river. The birds then take their swimming lessons, and again, Manu finds it hard to learn, and he swims across the river with his head barely above the water. He later has private swimming classes with Luke, but still doesn't learn how to swim. At night, his father teaches him how to navigate at night using the stars, but Manu gets distracted by a firefly which he tries to follow, trying to catch the disappointment of his father. The next day, Manu tries to learn how to swim. Here, he's joined by two other swifts like him who informs him that he isn't a seagull and should stop attempting to live like one. They teach him how to fly like how swifts do, and Manu learns that without much time, and they fly around. These birds then take him with them into the town, where they pick off crumbs and food from people's tables. Manu is so excited about the experience he is having. Along the way, he meets the sister of the two birds, a pretty bird named Khalifa. They fly for some time, after which Manu tells them that he was raised by a seagull and they are intrigued by it. At sailing school, the young seagulls are taught how to catch a fish, and they carry out the practical by catching a fish each. It gets to Manu's turn, and he flies into the water catching a fish, but later loses balance and falls into the ocean. His father flies to rescue him, bringing him out of the water onto the rocks. Manu is sad about his performance and he walks off. Later in the day, Eve and her husband quarrel about what happened, but he explains to her that Manu needs the skills if he has to survive with the seagulls. He goes ahead to inform them that Manu would not be following the colony on their migration to Africa. This gets his wife and son upset, and they later suggest that Manu would migrate with them if he wins the seagull racing competition held soon. When the period of the event arrives, Manu has to compete with other seagulls to be the champion. The race kicks off, and the birds fly across the trees and paths on which they are meant to race along. At first, Manu was behind but soon arrives at the front as he flaps his wings faster. He raced past other seagulls, and he flies side by side with a faster one, trying to outrun her. The race becomes fierce as the two birds take turns overtaking themselves, and the seagull begins cheating so she could win. But at the end of the day, Manu overcomes all the obstacles in his way, emerging as the champion, and the birds celebrate him. At home, his family congratulates him as he is the champion. His dad tasks him to watch the eggs in his place instead. At night, while Manu watched the eggs, he sees some wild rats trying to steal the eggs. He fights them off, but they are stronger than him. The noise from these wakes up Luke, who joins Manu to fight off the rats. Unfortunately, one of the rats took an egg before running away from the fight. The next morning, the mother of the egg which was stolen gets devastated by the loss of her egg, and the seagulls blame Manu for this. His father takes him out of their midst and informs him that he would have to go away from the seagulls' colony. Despite the plea from Manu and Luke, their father does not change his decision. Manu then leaves the seagulls to go live on his own. He first heads to the cemetery to meet Percy and asks that he stays with him. Percy reluctantly agrees, and Manu promises to teach him how to fly. They both commence training lessons, but Percy cannot fly like a bird, so he fails at every attempt. Later, he suggests that Manu would do better living with Swifts like himself and recommends to live with the Swifts he met the other day. So Manu flies to go meet Khalifa and her brothers. He sees them, and after notifying them of his predicament, they agree that he lives with them. The next day, Manu eats breakfast and does morning routines with the Swifts. Later in the day, they all go for their afternoon hunt and Khalifa obliges Manu to join them. The Swifts in their numbers fly together and Manu is confused about how to do this, so he gets clumsy on air, but Khalifa teaches him how to move in unison with the other birds. Luke, at his end, sees some Swifts flying. He goes to meet them and asks Manu, and they inform him that he isn't with them. Luke is told that Manu has gone to a party where he is to perform with Khalifa and her brothers. He asks to join, but the Swifts refuse. At the party, many Swifts arrive and Khalifa and the rest of the band perform for them. The birds dance and have fun, and Manu is intrigued by everything he witnessed. He and Khalifa later fly out of the building as they swim across the waters and laugh excitedly. They later perch on a tree branch, where they both have a romantic moment. The next day, Manu, Khalifa, and her brothers fly into the town to get food crumbs. Luke sees his brother as he flies past him, and he goes after him. He clumsily flies across the tables and later hits a wall, which brings him to the ground. Immediately, huge rats appear and begin to attack him. He struggles to fight them off as they outnumber him. Soon, Manu appears above him and fights the rats off. He is joined by the other three Swifts who fight off the rats together with him. They successfully get Luke out of danger and Manu introduces his brother to his new friends. Then they fly alone towards the boardwalk. There, Luke mentions to his brother that the colony of seagulls is flying soon and asks Manu to come with them. But Manu refuses, notifying him that his place is with the Swifts and he can't leave them now. Luke is a bit saddened by this, but Manu tries to console him, telling him that they would still see him next spring, but he walks off. Manu flies off to meet Percy, who mentions to him that he did the right thing. Khalifa meets him there and informs him that they needed to go somewhere, so they leave together. At night, Percy sees some rats stealing eggs from the Swift's hole, so he hurriedly goes to search for Manu. He sees him with Khalifa and alerts him about what happened. Khalifa is devastated and Manu promises to retrieve the eggs from the rodents. Manu, Khalifa, and her brothers track the rats and fly to a wine cellar where they stay. Manu announces that he'll need more help, so Khalifa goes to summon Luke. Luke arrives to help his brother and they all head into the cellar to rescue the eggs. They see the eggs inside a sewer and Manu comes up with a plan. He instructs Luke to uncork the barrels of wine, which he does. The wine then flows into the hole where the rats stay, and they all run out, racing to a dry place to stay. As the rats run, the birds throw bottles at them and also fight off the ones that try to attack them. Soon, they all see the stolen eggs as they float on the wine, so the Swifts get nets and pick up the eggs gently. They then notice that the rats have returned to the cellar and they start to fidget. The rodents attack Luke, Manu, and his friends, and they start losing the fight and possibly the eggs. They seem helpless when suddenly Percy arrives at the scene and joins them to fight. He fights off the rats while Manu and his friends carry the eggs to safety. Manu and Khalifa angrily leave the swarm and her brothers go after her. They stay together at Percy's place and later notice that a storm is coming. Manu flies to his family and informs them about this, advising his father not to fly and put themselves in danger. But his father doesn't listen to him and doesn't believe what he says. He maintains his stand that the seagulls would begin their migration that evening. Manu leaves and Luke tries to change his father's mind, but his mother tells him a story about a mistake his father made before, which cost the life of his grandfather. Eve informs her son that his father is trying not to repeat the same mistake this year by delaying their flight, and towards the evening, the seagulls set out for Africa. At the place of the swifts, one of the recovered eggs hatches and a baby seagull comes out of it. The swifts are confused about what to feed it or where to place it, so they decide to call Manu for help. When Manu arrives, they ask for his help on how to train the baby seagull, but he stubbornly refuses to help. He tells them that for him to help them, they would have to put an end to their enmity with the seagulls and also assist him to help Luke and his family. The swifts agree to this, and they all fly to go help the seagulls who are already flying to a great storm. The seagulls are met by a storm, and it blows them about, so Luke's father instructs them to land gently in the water, which they do. Above them, Manu and the swarm of swifts arrive in the midst of the storm and pick one after the other, helping them fly through the storm. Then Khalifa guides them high into the clouds, where the storm isn't raging. This was a very difficult and dangerous move, but the seagulls and the swifts fly through the stormy clouds to a sunny one. They are all excited and notice that Luke is missing, so Manu and Khalifa's brothers fly back into the storm to help him. They find Luke with another seagull and rescue them both, bringing them to where the rest of the birds are. The seagulls are grateful and end their enmity with the swifts as they fly together to Africa. The next spring, the swifts and seagulls return to the seashore and live together peacefully and in harmony. This is where the movie ends. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe for more videos like this. See you soon with a new video. Till then, stay happy and chill out.